Biggest Hollywood scandals that history forgot. Did you know that some of the biggest scams in Hollywood have been buried so deep in history that most people have forgotten about them? What if I told you that there were shocking lies being kept in Tinseltown that would rock it to its core? As we look into the biggest Hollywood scandals that history forgot, get ready to learn about the lies, betrayals, and drama that have been swept under the carpet. You'll be shocked. The Lolita complex of Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, the silent film actor, was busy courting women much younger than himself long before Leonardo DiCaprio was only dating models half his age. In all, he was married 4 times, and his brides were all, to put it mildly, quite young. At the age of 29, he wed Mildred Harris, a 16-year-old, in 1918. They separated by 1920. He then wed 16-year-old Lyda Gray in 1924, a union that lasted just 3 years. In essence, these unions endured long enough for the partners to attain the status of legal adults. Horrible. Chaplin took a little hiatus from marriage for the following 10 or so years. Then, in 1936, he married the actress Paulette Goddard, who was by then in her 40s, but at least in her 20s. That one too failed to stay. It seems that the 4th time was the charm. In 1943, at the age of 53, Chaplin wed Una O'Neill, a woman of 18. Even though the man was now old enough to be her grandfather, the fact that she was a legal adult was a positive step in the right direction. They remained wed until his passing in 1977. If all of that news isn't scandalous enough for you, Chaplin's communist views also resulted in his expulsion from the United States in 1952. He didn't return until 1972, when he accepted an honorary Oscar. He must have delighted the tabloids. Elizabeth Taylor's Triangle of Love. In the past, Elizabeth Taylor was known as the Scandal Queen. Taylor, who has been married 8 times, gained notoriety for many years when she started seeing Debbie Reynolds' husband Eddie Fisher, also an actor. Following the death of her 3rd husband in a plane accident in the late 1950s, Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher were married for 5 years, during which time Fisher had an affair with Richard Burton, whom she would later marry twice and divorce. The couple had 2 children together, including Carrie Fisher from Star Wars. What fiery love life. Even though the media first demonized both Fisher and Taylor, only Fisher's career suffered as a result of this well-known incident. Reynolds and Taylor went on to become A-list celebrities and even reconciled in 1966 after a fortuitous meeting on a cruise ship. Natalie Wood's mysterious death. The biggest mystery and scandal in Tinseltown history is most likely the murder of Hollywood icon Natalie Wood in 1981. At the age of 43, Wood killed under unknown circumstances while on a boat voyage with fellow actor Christopher Walken, who she may or may not have been having an affair with, and her husband, actor Robert Wagner, who was obviously twice her age and whom she married twice in 1957 and 1972. It's partially because no one has ever been able to determine the precise cause of her death that makes it so unforgettable. After Wagner was implicated by the boat captain in 2011, the case was reopened after it had been first determined to be an accidental drowning. However, no charges were ever brought and the matter was eventually closed. In 2012, Wood's death certificate was revised to include drowning and other undetermined factors as the cause of death. The unsolved death of Jean Harlow's spouse. Actress Jean Harlow had quite the life of scandal and intrigue before she passed away at the extremely early age of 26. I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Her first marriage, which started when she was just 16 years old, lasted for a mere 2 years. Then, at the height of her career at the age of 22, Harlow wed Paul Bern, a middle-aged German film executive. He was discovered dead from a possibly self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head 2 months later. MGM studio executives were contacted before the police, and they remained there for 2 hours until the police came to look into the scene's remnants. Harlow was allegedly at her mother's place. Byrne was already married to another lady when he exchanged vows with Harlow, adding to the surreal nature of the tale. 9 days after Byrne's passing, Dorothy Millett's body was discovered in the Sacramento River. She might or might not have visited Byrne on the night of his death. She was a sanitarian resident at the time. The Lolita complex of Jerry Lee Lewis. Rock and roller Jerry Lee Lewis wed his cousin in 1958. She was 13 years old and it was his 3rd marriage. Even then, it destroyed his career, so it probably wouldn't fly these days at all legality apart. It's just gross. The fact that he was still legally wed to his 2nd wife at the time most likely didn't help. The daughter of Lana Turner shot her boyfriend. Additionally, in 1958, Cheryl Crane, the 14-year-old daughter of actress Lana Turner, assassinated mobster Johnny Stompanato by stabbing him to death in an attempt to save her mother. The first Dirty John, perhaps? Crane was cleared by a verdict of justified homicide, claiming to have stood up for her mother, whom Stompanato was threatening to kill. Additional relationships. Keeping up with all these scandalous Hollywood relationships is difficult. I suppose there are unintended consequences when a group of attractive people are thrown together for extended periods of time to film scenes in which they must seem to be in love. However, another incident that made news included actress Ingrid Bergman and Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini, whom she met while working together on the 1949 movie Stromboli. When she became pregnant with his child, they both left their husbands for one another. At the time, they were married. By 1957, they had divorced. The secret child of Clark Gable. Actress Loretta Young met actor Clark Gable on the set of Call of the Wild Above, whereupon they had an affair that resulted in her becoming pregnant at the age of 23. Gable is well known for his womanizing as much as his playing. Gable remained wed to his first of 5 wives at the time, and he showed no desire to meet his daughter with Young. Young maintained her child's paternity a secret for her entire life. The identity of her daughter's father was finally disclosed in a memoir written after his death. In due course, Young acknowledged that their connection was not consenting, a controversy inside a scandal. Still more extramarital affairs. At the beginning of the 1960s, Marilyn Monroe was considered to be one of the most remarkable stars in Hollywood, and many people believe that John Fitzgerald Kennedy was the most gorgeous president in the history of the United States. In spite of the fact that they became acquainted in public settings, the scandal started in 1962 with a secret rendezvous that took place in Palm Springs, California. There are many who assert that Monroe fell into a downward spiral of depression, which ultimately led to her taking her own life after Kennedy ended their long-rumored affair. The belief that her death was not at all the result of a suicide is still held by certain people. The notable death of the second wife and Roman Polanski's Lolita complex. In 1969, the Manson family was responsible for the terrible murder of actress Sharon Tate, which is a narrative that is so strange that it could be adapted into a film starring Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which arrives in 2019. Polanski, on the other hand, was later involved in a questionable case that occurred in 1977 and involved the statutory rape of a girl who was 13 years old and that he had drugged. He admitted to having sexual relations with the girl, but Polanski insisted that she was a willing subject throughout the entire process. Due to the fact that no rational person would believe such story, Polanski flew to Europe in February of 1978, shortly before he was scheduled to be sentenced to death. In the past, there have been numerous unsuccessful attempts at extradition, with the most recent one occurring in the year 2015. In this manner, the story continues, and there are more and more stories to come. For as long as there are magnificent people on our screens who are adored like royalty, and for as long as people are people, celebrities will continue to do what they do and support journalism. This will continue for as long as there are millions of people. Want more untold Hollywood stories and forgotten scandals? Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of the drama behind the fame.